How are
Hey,
you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, good. Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty good. Pretty good. Yeah.
Lockdown,
Wait a second. Second.
surviving lockdown.
Surviving lockdown. Yeah. Be living the best life as possible. Yeah, we can see a little bit the light at the end of the tunnel with next not next week, the following one, be able to train outside. But yeah. What about you?
Yeah, doing all right. I think obviously having the babies like kept us pretty entertained for the last 5 weeks, which made it super bearable. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm the same. Looking forward to being able to meet up with other people, like as much as I like love my wife and love my daughter, like at the same time too.
Yeah.
Some like real world interaction is going to be very pleasantly received.
Yeah.
Mate, thanks for jumping on with me. I think this is going to be our
You're
third
welcome.
podcast together, and really the first time we get
Uh,
a chance to chat, just you and me. So uh,
yeah. True story. It's good. No, thank you for the invite, and yeah, I'm glad that we kind of like find a time. That's awesome.
I think it's been one of the other perks of COVID is like everyone's got a little bit more time to like sit down.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. You're
Uh,
at home, you're more available. It's like it's easy.
how are you finding? Like, what are you doing to fill your time? I saw the other day you did a post that you've just been like stretching and listening to podcasts for like hours a day. You must be just well by now.
um, uh, like I'm thinking like coming back to the gym, and like I can't wait for the idea, right? But being able to, especially the last few weeks, to build like a nice routine at home has been like, yeah, really tempting to like consider like, oh, can I run most of my life like this from home? Um, yeah, no, it's like I think it's like your question is like how we've been doing using the time. It's like, yeah, training, stretching, or listening to podcasts, but mostly like spending with my daughter. So like she's just like 9 months now, and even like just like the fact is like I can, people is so, as well, like as we just said now, like people is so flexible that you can, book like Zoom calls or Zoom catch ups with your athletes, um, and pretty much at any time, because they just book it like a meeting in the middle of the workday. So I've been loving especially the last 3 weeks that she's been eating more, kind of like into food, and we find out that she if she's like sitting down and we're trying to like feed her, she doesn't eat as much. But if we all having food together, she just like eats no ends, like doesn't stop. So we've been having like breakfast, lunch, and dinner together. So that was like being like awesome, for example. And yeah, I don't know, just like having that time after lunch, for example, like I'm missing like back from Spain, like just being at home and just read a book, or just lie on the floor and close your eyes a little bit for half an hour, just because you're at home and it's easy, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, that stuff is good.
Nice. So, mate, give us a little bit of background. Like, obviously, I know you through Jess, and you're working now at Project Better, but give us the lead up. How did you end up kind of where we are now? How did you end up obviously in Australia, down at Project
Yeah,
Better, coaching?
yeah, cool. So I mean, originally I come from Spain.
Yeah.
If you need subtitles on the podcast or anything, that would be available. Yeah, so like I'm back in Spain. I just always come from, my background has always been in sports, like play soccer, swimming, and then the swimming club became into like a triathlon club, and that's where I kind of spent the most of my years between the 14, 15, and I was lucky enough to make like the junior team, for like the triathlon Spanish team. So that was like awesome, like to see like amazing coaches at that sort of national level. It's kind of like the work towards in Spain is like they invest a lot of money on the base level, and then from there you kind of make your way up to sort of like Olympic team or whatever. But yeah, then I switched between to be an athlete to kind of more into coaching. So I did like sport science degree, and then specialized like at the time, like endurance sports, but then I come back and I did as well, like team sports. So from there is I don't know, 7 years ago, I've just been working mostly like in Spain with soccer teams and track and field, which I love, like that sort of idea of like sports and performance. And then when I moved to London, I moved to London thinking like it was kind of the crisis. And so I moved to London in terms of let's learn English, open like more doors, blah, blah, blah. And I ended up spending like 5 years in London. So the most accessible work for me there was like doing personal training, like private personal training. Qualifications was okay in terms of like European Union, is they recognize, but my English was no good at the beginning, and then the access to work at that sort of level of coaching like teams was not available for me initially. I ended up teaching like coaching some soccer, like sort of a high school level back in the UK, but that was my last 2 years. And I met my partner, she's from Australia. So we end up here. And yeah, in Australia, been like the last 2 years, and again, mostly training, say, general population. Like some people is amazing athletes or freaks, and some people is just want to keep healthy. And a couple, like little bunch of athletes, a couple of cyclists, a couple of people still back in the UK that does marathons. And yeah, so actually it's gonna be 3 years this Christmas here in Australia. And I've been a Project Better pretty much from the beginning, because Jess and Tristan, they opened for like 3 months, and I was here in Australia for like 6. So I said to Jess, like, I want to work here. I can, like do 1 to 3 free sessions to all your clients if you want. And then she was like so overwhelmed as well, doing like, because they were offering like a free session if you sign up at Project Better. So it was like, we were like, yeah, that was crazy days, but yeah, it was good. And then from the rest is history. Like we just Jess and I, we go along very well, and we kind of think about like strength and conditioning, like be like very important and very kind of nerdy in that side, but at the same time like really holistic, like sleep, nutrition, recovery, mindset. So kind of like this is really good throwing backwards and forwards in terms of information. I signed up for a course, she signed up for 2 courses, and then she sent me the credentials, or saying hire the credentials. And yeah, it's kind of like it's been like good time. Like it's good to have like somebody that's like similar, like like-minded in terms of education. Like constantly we are sort of studying, and it doesn't get boring. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I don't know, it's kind of like summarize.
Yeah, I think the education thing's funny. I remember when I first became a PT, and they talk about having to do like CECs, right? Like continuing ed courses.
Yeah.
And at the start, you're just like, they're such a pain in the ass. And then I think as I started to appreciate more that there's so many different avenues and so many different aspects of training that once you start to break the connection between school and education and institution, and start to understand like knowledge and like how much comes from increasing your own experience, like it just makes you an asset for your athletes, right?
And I think it's like sometimes I'm a little bit like how can I say, like I love the idea of like a trainer do say a certification such as like CrossFit level 1 or so like level 2, so you can take some classes, so you can coach people, or like a PT, right? Get like a 5 years of experience and then jump at uni. So then it's like, I think you have a few steps ahead of, for example, me. Like I was 4 years at uni where I was just like theory, and you don't get to work in the field much. So for me, like as soon as I finished uni for 4 years, I guess that I probably like for the first 2 years, I didn't touch any other book. I was like, I have all this information, like what I do with this. So I needed those 2 years of experience, like to actually polish those skills and put those concepts on practice. And now it's like, you can think like, oh, a squat is a squat, but a gym in the States is doing squats, like box squats. If you look at waist side barbell, and then you look at the you look at the Chinese weightlifting, and they're doing like it's an amazing high body squat. And then you look at, like what's the soccer, like German team doing for rehab and what sort of squats are doing and stuff like that. I'm like, cool, it's still the same squat, but all that study, it's more like research, more like a sort of enjoyable, like your interest, right?
I find that super frustrating, like the disconnect between like university and study and like practical application. I mean, sports science degree, I think, is a perfect example. Like you spend like how much or incur how much like hex there to do like a 4-year degree. And then I've coached some clients who have a sports science degree and they move so badly. So it's just like they have all you want in the world and then application, especially in the beginning.
The differentiation at uni is like, because at uni, or at least in Spain, you can get through two ways. Like you can be like an academic, and then you can do like your degree, your research, and then you can be teaching.
Yeah.
Right? Or you can be like really successful coach, and then you can from there. There is like there's certain like spots for teachers that is based on experience, not based so much on academics, but they still need to do like some studies, some research. And I remember the best teachers were the ones that like 60-year-old, and they spend the last 40 years of their life coaching the national team of gymnastics.
Yeah.
And they never been at uni. They only spend in uni now because they are 60 years old, but the lectures are amazing. That makes sense. I'm sorry.
I feel like having it go the other way would actually be a more beneficial situation for the student too, right? Like if you could go from doing a practical 2 or 3 years of experience, like I think if I did a sports science degree now, I'd find it heaps more beneficial than kind of going in cold and just deciding to do sports science because I like going to the gym.
Yeah, that's it. I'm back. Yeah, sorry.
Did you miss all that?
So, yeah. Sorry. Yeah. You were saying?
Yeah, so I was just saying, that to me makes more sense. Like to go out, decide like it's an industry you want to be involved in, work as a PT, do a baseline amount of credentials, and then after 4 or 5 years decide, okay, well, I actually do want to learn more about it. Then going and doing like a sports science degree, coincide with work. Like that'd definitely be the way to do it. I think with any kind of like furthering education, okay? Take a gap year, figure out what you want to do, and then go and specialize in it, rather than what I got into. Like, let's see how it goes, which is what I did. So,
yeah, totally. And it's one of the things. Like in my case, was lucky enough that my dad was like, oh, you go to sports, because I didn't know what to do at uni. Like I knew I liked sports. I was like kind of helping the coaches of the triathlon club a little bit if they have to go into an event. I have to take the really young kids. And my dad's like, like you enjoy sports, you enjoy like maybe like taking some sessions sometimes. Like the coach trusts you. Maybe you want to do like something around sports science. And I was like, oh yeah, that sounds cool. Like I was thinking like doing history or something like that. Like, because like it was like like some nice chicks that were doing history. I was like, but it could be like some people go to uni, you waste 4 years if by the end of it you don't love it or you don't find the passion there. So yeah, I think that practice definitely like makes sense first. Like you break the tracksuit on the field and then go into the books afterwards.
It's funny too, the difference between when you're forced to study and when you find something interesting which you want to learn more about, right? Like in terms of mindset. And I know you and I have really good conversations about like what you're reading, what we're reading, different books to and it's amazing like how proficient you can get through like all this different reading when it's like, oh yeah, that sounds interesting, I'll read more of that, rather than like, here's the textbook, go away, try to learn. Remember.
No, 100%. I was like, I don't read at the moment, like, like sports for elderly people. Like it's awesome, but it's not my thing at the moment. we've been talking, you can been seeing like the books that we're reading at the moment. So like mindset, because then it's like strength and conditioning. I read so much, and it kind of becomes like it's an easy subject to get into. And then it's like, I remember you need like sports psychology, and it's like, oh, actually, these people that's talking about mindset is just sports psychology strategies, and then you read, and it's like, use it for parenting. You can use it for being a better manager, or just a better coach in general. And you use it quite a lot, those strategies as well with nutrition. Like in the end of the day, it doesn't matter if it's like performance through exercise or performance through nutrition. It all that comes down to approach and habits, right?
Yeah, I think it's like the most misunderstood kind of part, right? You kind of graduate in your experience as you realize, oh, I've worked with 500 people, and what do they all have in common? It's like if they're not committed, or they're not motivated, or they don't understand why they're setting out to embark on something, that the likelihood that through is very small, right? The more you sort of see that, the more it is like you have to connect on a level that's deeper than nutritional plans or like exercise programming, right? That's, and again, like that's something that you aren't taught, right? Like you study science or study sports science, there's nothing in there about like how to cultivate like a can-do attitude within like your clients, or like having them understand, work through like their small habits and everyday like choices that they make in order to achieve it.
And one of the I guess like one of the hardest ones I have is like perhaps my nature outside of coaching. It will be like avoiding conflict all the time. And when you coaching, you don't look into argues, but you need to find a little bit of conflict where you do those challenging questions. Like somebody is like, oh, I have not done that session that you designed for me. And I will be like, years ago, I will be like, oh, okay, no stress. And then until the point I learned is like, no, I need to, like, why not? And then for me, it would be like hard initially, because it's like, oh, because this. And it's like, cool. And that would be like at that point, I would be like, oh, okay, cool. But then I was like, no, that was not good enough. Like, and then it was like, you start building questions like, why you not done it? And I'm like, oh, because this. Okay, what strategies we can bring that the next time doesn't happen? Oh, this and this and this. And then it's like, in the end of the day, it's not that bad. Like those conversations. And for me, before it was so scary, like find that confrontation with the person. It's like, but you're not done initially what they ask you to do as well. It's the funny thing. Yeah.
It's a definite skill, isn't it? Like learning when you need to like push back, and learning when you like need to hug, right? Like
No.
Yeah.
You find like, I don't know, like it's like exercise, like it's one of the things like instantly. I find like personally, like when I think about somebody doing nutrition, I was like, man, that's a harder job. Like the more I'm not a nutritionist, but I really always love food and the idea of like nutrition, and I read books about nutrition and stuff like that, or stay as much informed as possible if people ask you a question. The more you know, the more you're like, gosh, nutrition is so hard, because exercise is like, if you show up and you do it, you're pretty good, right? And then people tend to see like, oh, last week I did 500 meters in 5 minutes. Now I'm doing 500 meters in 3 minutes. And then it's just that the motivation is there already. It's like, especially physically, like we tend to get good at the beginning, especially if it's novice. With food, like the way that food is orchestrated nowadays, that would be like back and forwards all the time. I can imagine like how hard it would be, like, because like food is so attached to like psychology as well, and it's like not just psychology but like emotions and all this stuff. Like that would be like harder work personally. I think so.
Definitely a different challenge, I'll give you that. I think toward like the end of the day, I feel the challenge is the same. Like, no doubt you've had clients as well where halfway through a workout, they just start crying, right? But
Yeah.
not because like it's hard, just because there's like other stuff going on, and it's that getting
Okay. Yeah.
uncomfortable position where it's like, why do you think you can't do this? Like, what's stopping you from pushing through to that next level? Like, why are you
Yeah.
quitting? Physically do it. Why? Again, like that psychology. Like, why is your head not supporting like
Yeah.
all these different things that you want to do? But yeah, food is a different beast. Like you said, with exercise, you get on the roller, you row 500 meters as fast as you can, heart rate's up, you're sweating, you're out of breath.
Yeah.
You're getting high fives from people around you doing the same workout. That's instant feedback, right? Instant
Yeah.
positive feedback for the effort that you put in. But you have a really good day, following your outline or meeting your macros. There's no confetti, there's no ticker tape. It's like, good, now do it again tomorrow. Start again, right?
Yeah. Oh, no, do it again 2 hours, right? It's like if you do like even like if you do just 3 meals, it's like workout. You just need to show up once.
Yeah.
So show up, do it, and then it's like for food, you like show up for breakfast, make the right decisions for breakfast. It's like middle of the day, like in the office, like make the right decisions for that snack, make the right decisions for the lunch, make the right decisions for the second snack, and
Imagine how much better off the community would be if every time you were stressed or bored or emotional, you did like 50 push-ups instead of eating, right? Like, can you imagine how like enormously fit the community would be?
yeah,
But yeah, it is part of the challenge. I think, and you'd see this too, especially when you work with general population.
yeah,
Where you're developing strategies that take time, like long periods of time to achieve. It's hard when those initial, motivations start to kind of waver and it's not new and it's not exciting and it's starting to become work. That's like where the magic is, but you have to get through those parts.
And funny you said that the push-ups, like, they learned this new word, like this word. Apparently, they use more in the States. Meathead. Somebody does like a little bit simple. So like suppress one habit with another, with something painful, like push-ups. So every time that you think about having that, I don't know, that pretzel covered in chocolate, you do 20 push-ups. So it sounds like very simple, but just the hormones that your body release doing those 20 push-ups back to back, it just already, like, it changed the whole chemistry of your body, and probably likely you don't need it, and stuff like that. It seems simple. Or like, yeah, I don't know if you use it much that, but
talk about nutritional science and kind of the deeper you go, you more you realize you don't understand the research at the moment that's going on in terms of like the link between the brain and the gut is just the most fascinating, area of research, and really they're looking at like microbiome and gut flora buildups that can have an impacting role on mental health, right? And the biggest one at the moment, or the one that has kind of caught my eye the most, is when they talk about cravings, and what cravings are, generally speaking, is when you begin to change the gut flora and the bacteria within your gut, the bacteria that's not getting fed starts to signal to the brain that it wants to eat, and that's what we interpret as craving. So, Charles Poliquin, do you ever read much of his stuff? The Strength and Conditioning?
no. Say again, Charles Poliquin.
Poliquin?
Yeah.
He used to have this theory where if you were trying to break a sugar habit with a client, every time they crave something sweet, to give them like a shot of cream and like a heap of fat, so that basically they would stop craving sweet, because every time they crave sweet, the response that it was eliciting was different, and eventually you just turned that craving off. That was his big theory. So I haven't tried that yet, but yeah, it's when you start getting that deep and you realize, you talked about habits and stuff before, how much the absent-mindedness really like takes over, like how much the subconscious is really in the driving seat when it comes to ultimately where you find yourself is accumulation of every decision you've made up to that point. So if you're not happy with where you are, it's your decision that's got you there, right? So it's obviously your decision making that needs to improve if you want to change the position that you're in, right?
But then it comes the decision making, like it's like a battery. Like your decision making might be like really good at the beginning of the day, and it through the decisions of the day kind of we deplete that capacity of make good decisions.
Yeah.
And by the end of the day is when we do all these, call it like little mistakes, or sometimes it's like needed, right? Like that emotional eating. But I guess that as we think of the other one we talked about, like the awareness is the first step. It's like, do I'm hungry? It's like, no, I just like have this weird meeting and just I want to emotionally eat. But you're aware of it, and then you can choose like, today I will have it. And sometimes personally I do it. Like I have like, especially Mondays when I was in the gym, it's like big days for me. And I always will crave like dessert on Mondays night. And sometimes I choose like, I'm self-aware that's like, I'm tired and I want to do that sort of like reward kind of emotional eating. Yeah. Sometimes I choose to do it. Sometimes because I'm aware to it, I can choose to not. It's not just like being guided by instincts or sort of those reflex. So that kind of awareness, I guess that's important for us to, as a coaches, to bring to our clients. Like, that's okay to feel like that. Then it comes,
Yeah, I think for anyone listening, if you like don't think you've ever experienced this, think of how many times you've been trying to work from home or study and you check the fridge like 6 times for a snack, and like nothing changes each time you go and look, but you still get up and go and look regardless.
And check, that
like procrastination, like you said, like that, you know, maybe you've had a stressful meeting and you want something that's instantaneous feel good, which is usually what it provides, right?
That's good.
Food psychology is crazy, man. And I think when you have kids as well, like even really trying to be super aware of the language that you use with kids, because you just don't know what you might say off the cuff or absent-mindedly, which inherently becomes a scar, which is like ends up being traumatic and never quite healed, and can have all these follow-on effects, right?
Yeah. Oh, totally. And I think it was a conversation with Jez once, is like the whole thing about like blaming genes. Like it's like, it's because it's in the genes of my family. And realistically, it's not about genes or not the fully percentage of it. It's more like the habits of that family has around food that generate that type of body or not. Like it's quite easy to see a family and like, oh, okay, all of them are slim or not so slim, and then it's like what they're eating, and then the eating is it's like a tradition, right? Like you pass into, even if they live in different houses, they're still seeking for similar foods because how you're being educated, at least for the first 18 years of your life until that's huge.
Yeah, we like intuitive eating, right, is a big thing at the moment, and I think we might have spoken about this on your podcast as well. And it's this big push for people to just don't worry about like tracking or measuring or whatever, just eat intuitively. And my big problem with that is like, if you have no knowledge base, like how do you trust what you intuitively think? And if you have all these negative emotional ties to like food or traumatic experiences, like how reliable is your intuition going to be into what's correct or what's healthy, right? And how much is just from that experience? So,
and then like for example, like at home, like we kind of like quite conscious, but even like 2 nights ago, my partner is like, oh, how much rice should I put? And she's like, two half cups, and I was like, that's a full cup. And then it's like, just measure it. And then he was like, oh shit, like this is actually quite a lot when you measure it, the amount of carbs that you're gonna put for 2 people. And when you put it in there, it doesn't look like that much, especially those kind of spoons thing. There's those measured spoons, and it's like 1 cup, and the rice goes, and then it suddenly becomes a lot. And as you said, like measuring, even like I encourage a lot of clients that sometimes they are focused on, they are happy to dive quite a lot, to buy or to borrow from me like a glucometer. I don't know if you read Wire to Eat from Rob Wolf.
I think I've heard of it, but I've never seen it in action.
He just recommends you to buy like a glucometer, like the same that diabetes persons use, and you use it for like, I think it's like 17, not know if it's 17 days, 10 days. Basically, it's like you take your blood sugar 2 hours after every meal that you have for the next 10 days, and then you record how much, how different products might affect you as an individual. So imagine, because the machine you can share, right? Like I can do mine, put my Lancet in and measure after white potatoes, I might give me like 4.6, and my partner do hers, and this comes up like 8.
Yeah.
So obviously the same meal that we have, the glucose of each, like a potato or like a, rices or the carbs affects differently. So it was kind of interesting to see what, for me it was like, I was having like a white potato, and then it was like, I have like 9 of like sugar levels in my blood. I was like, cool, it seems like it spikes quite a lot.
Yeah. There's your perfect.
But yeah, you're aware now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was like, yeah, that sort of level of awareness.
Awareness is key. And like, if you are looking, I guess, to make better, informed decisions about anything, even day to day, like if you're not aware of what's running through your head through the day, because you're constantly thinking whether you're aware of it or not, right?
Yeah.
If you're not, like, it's a really interesting exercise to spend every time you have, like, you're consciously aware of a thought, write it down. And then at the end of the day, go back. And it's just like, how does this stuff keep cropping? And then what you start to see over the pattern of time is it's the same sorts of thoughts that are like constantly, in your head playing on those aren't positively serving and pushing you in the direction you want to go. You've got some work to do.
Oh, I definitely gonna do that. Yeah. Because I can think. Yeah, I think in the last 3 days, I've been thinking about the same things over and over, as you just said. Like if you write it down, I like them because like I do a little bit of I have like a spreadsheet in the mornings where I do it similar to a checking in, sort of like little grounded life, I call it. Yeah. I read a bit of the Stoics, and then I do like a appreciation sort of practice. Gratitude practice, but never done into like journaling or meditation. But somebody the other day explained to me, journaling is the only moment that if you grab a pen and write down your thoughts, is the only way that you can slow down your thoughts, because you can only think at the speed that you're writing. And I was like, that's actually so powerful that I want to do it. Like if you think about even like right now, like how many things in the back of your head you're running, or when you're working or writing an email and you're thinking on the next email, and that sort of journaling practice, and that what you just said now is actually quite powerful. Like just writing those thoughts that come to your head, and then looking back and it's like, gosh, I thought 50 times about that yogurt with peanut butter on top.
There's a really good conversation, Elon Musk on Joe Rogan, and they're talking about Neuralink, and Elon's sort of talking about how verbal speech is kind of old-fashioned in terms of how we'll eventually transmit and communicate and transmit data to one another. He's got a really good way of what he says is like, when I'm speaking to you, what I'm trying to do is compress every idea and thought that I'm having into this like small box to give it to you, hoping that you'll hear it and then be able to interpret all the data the way that I'm thinking it, right? Essentially, like that's what speaking is. Part of that journaling, I think why journaling is so important and so beneficial. Like there's a reason talking about things that are bothering you actually helps, and it's because you're forced to compress them into their most simplest forms in order to get them out. Once they're out, see how simple they seemingly are when they stop running, but they're in front of you, then you can start to deal with them, right?
Yeah.
And that tends to be really where anxiety stems, is you have a thought and it begins to grow legs and kind of cycle around and around and spins around and around and around and around. And if it's all you're thinking about for a constant period of time, of course it's going to seem like this overwhelmingly huge, like a rabbit hole that you've got yourself into, like somewhat, you know, inability to be able to deal with it. But if you write down like, this is what I'm feeling, or this is the issue that I'm having right now you can deal with it. You know, now you can think objectively about the thought rather than being like trapped in it. Yeah. Journaling is one of those things where I'm always wish I did more of, but then when I start to do it, it sometimes like takes over too, right? Because you have a thought and you write it down, and then you have a thought about a thought. So then it's like, is this what I'm thinking? Or now am I being prompted to think like this because I'm telling myself I need to write it down, right? So then you just have like existential crisis, move across and try to get on with the rest of the day.
I guess it's like, you know, like maybe like an example, like maybe it's like a bad example, but I don't know. You know, when you're learning, say, double unders, which is like a skill that's not as simple as single skipping, and then you overthink it.
Yeah.
But when it clicks, you just do it, right? The rhythm is there and the coordination is there. So I guess it's kind of that. It's just, and it comes out like, I think in the last few conversations with Jess, is like, it just comes down to practice. It's like,
reps.
But reps and practice, like journaling. For some people might click in 3 days, and then it's like they found it, you know, the most inspiring sort of journaling 10 minutes of their days within those, you know, first 3 days. And some people might take 3 years, and after 3 years it's like, oh wow, this is actually helping me to move forward. And I guess it could be down to that sort of practice. It's the only thing I can relate it, because I always have remember when I was doing like double unders practice, I was thinking like on my wrist, and it's like on my kind of hollow position and my ankles, and then it's like never works. And then you think like on the most simple thing, it was like the noise of my feet doing the jump.
Yeah.
And as soon as that clicked, I was like, okay, it's the rhythm, tack, and the rope does zoop zoop, tack, zoop zoop, like, and that was like, the body was doing it already. Just I was doing overcomplicating. So
it's like when you get your first muscle up, and you're like, "What took me so long? Like, why did?" Once you've done, like, how many people have you seen get their first one and then like they bang out? Like I said before, never done it before, and they've gone.
Yeah. I think muscle up. It also, I mean, obviously strength is required, and then the skill kind of get the movement, but it's a component of trust. Like the trust in yourself, like I can do it. As soon as you think that, you do it. Like somebody can tell you all the intricacies of the muscle up, but if the person don't see him or herself doing it, that they don't trust, that they kind of pass to the other side, they never get it. It's just when you like give that, like, all right, count down. You do 15 street pull-ups. You do an amazing keeping, and you can do like dips like no tomorrow. You just need to, you know, jump yourself out there and trust. Like, just close your eyes and do it. And most of the time they do it. Sometimes they need a few other sessions of like you just working on that trust, on that transition. I think it probably is many things in life. Like everybody has all the skills, but they don't trust.
Well, I think
that they can do it.
We get too disheartened too easily. It's I didn't get a muscle up on my first time, therefore this is shit and I'm not going to do it anymore. Like you said, it is about reps, and that's, I think that gets missed with mindfulness a lot, is that it is like trying to learn a new physical skill or learn a new game or learn a new move in the gym. You have to practice it, and you have to be open to the fact that probably you're not going to like what you starting to realize when you start journaling, but that's part of the process, you know?
Yeah.
And you want it long enough to become a habit, and then you do get better at it over time. But it takes, you have,
I guess it,
learn to, you have to have your pull up strength before you start trying to do bar muscle ups. And it's a state of progression that requires commitment and, regular practice, right?
It's funny, like I think I always compare it with the instruments, because especially since I read mindset, like you always can repeat the same message. It's like if you look at somebody doing a muscle up, you're like, gosh, that's annoying, that person is doing a muscle up. If you're looking at somebody like having like a really good diet, it's like, oh, that's so annoying, like that person understands how to eat, all of these kind of things. But then you see somebody playing beautiful guitar and you're like, oh, that's so cool, I wish I could do it. And like never, like it's a little bit more positive, like throws instruments. But in the end of the day, again, it's reps and practice, right? Like if you only practice journaling 10 minutes a week, it's like practicing guitar 10 minutes a week. You're gonna be crap in the next 10 years. You're not gonna be a very good guitar, play or
You get what you put in.
within 3 years. Yeah, so it's like comes down to like those 10,000 hours as well, the outliers, etc. You start combining all the stats like mindset, and then you have the outliers, 10,000 hours, and it suddenly makes sense. And I tend to like approach it like that. Like when I was like, say, handstand, I'm on my handstand journey, and I like to call people like that journey because it takes away a little bit of the pressure because you're in a journey. And on my handstand journey, the weeks I practice 3 minutes on my warm up, by the end of the week, I'm like, cool. Like I'm getting into like a really good position and stuff like that, and a good hold. The weeks I do it like every second day, it goes down again. Easy as that.
Yeah. I think one of my favorite expressions is you can't get pissed off at the results you don't get from the work you haven't put in, and I think whatever you want to accomplish, like there's a difference between, everyone wants to go to the games. So everyone wants beautiful muscle. So everyone wants to get the promotion, whatever it is, but very few are willing to actually do the work that is required to get to those points. And then normally what happens is we see people who are obtaining and achieving the things that we want that we're not willing to work for. And we lay it down, oh, they're outliers, or they're lucky, or like, something was holding, like it's just excuses from that point.
And they're talented.
They're talented. Yeah, they're so lucky. They're just gifted.
Yeah. Oh, like how people say, oh, you have a fast metabolism. That's the reason that you're always lean.
Yeah. Yeah, it's something you
wait. So I've seen that you've been like hitting some PRs on your big lifts as well. It's just maybe transitioning. Just before the baby born, you were training fine. I just want to ask you, like, how are you finding the training with the sleep deprivation? How's the baby sleeping?
All right. Long story. I'll give you some back, I guess. Speaking of backs, so I hurt my back properly in, I think it was like early Feb. I'd done like 3 lanes in about 3 or 4 weeks. There was something going on. And in Feb, I was squatting in the garage and like nothing heavy, just got to a bottom of a warm-up set. And at the bottom just felt something go. I had 100 kilos on my back. This is just in the garage where we try not to truck weight. And I remember being pinned at the bottom and just thinking like, I don't think I've got the ability to like bail out of this squat. I think I'm going to have to try to stand it up. So I stand up the squat and like dump it off my back and then just like drop. And my phone's on the other side of the gym. So I'm like trying to crawl to my phone so I can like call Kat. And in the end, I just like yelled out from the garage and she obviously heard the drop. So she came out and I was like, I've done it properly this time. I started working with a new physio, Heath, or myo osteo, and
Yeah.
yeah,
I know him.
yeah. Um,
Yeah.
and so he like obviously helped me back to rehab, and then got me through a lot of like the rehabilitation side of things. And then I said to him, by this stage, like COVID had hit and gyms were closed, and I'd sort of said, you've gotten me better with the rehab. Would you like want to continue sort of giving me some progressive work for strength training? And he said I could, but like given like what you want to do, you're probably better off working with Jared. So he passed me on to his colleague Jared, who was like, yeah, cool. So we started like, I think our top sets of strength work was like, I think it was like 120. And I was like, this is pathetic. Like a lot of like, to leave the ego behind. And then from Mark, basically he programmed every session I did just in the garage.
Nice.
And he knew the baby was coming. So I'd sort of said to him, like, I'm feeling really good, but I want to max out like one last time before the baby comes, like just in case it's the last. Like really. Yeah. And so he'd written out for me, like, go heavy this week and then we'll max out the following week. So I got the heavy week in, but then Matea came like 4 days early. So I didn't get to go the max, but yeah, he hit some PRs, which was awesome, and like been feeling really strong. But since she's come, I guess it's compounded because she's come and stage 4 has come into effect as well. So all our stuff is like at my mum's, which is like 10 Ks away. So
shit, yeah.
Yeah, so I'll go over there if I'm doing like caregiving and I'm like dropping off her groceries, or I'm picking up in the pharmacy, and it's like, oh, well, I'm here, like I may as well like train. So it's like once a week that I'm able to train with barbells. But I think it's probably been for the best, because I think it would be trying to train. Obviously, we're a little bit fatigued. And coming off some big numbers, not being able to hit those numbers, I just find it frustrating. So, and I always like to preface when someone asks me how the baby's sleeping that like I'm getting a lot more sleep than Kat is. So like what my answer might be is probably different to hers. But if we get 6, it's not so much that you're, here we go again. It's not so much that I'm up all night. It's more that you just like woken frequently. Right? Like,
so the sleep is broken.
Yeah. So even if like I'm not the one doing the feed and Kat, because Kat's still breastfeeding, it's still like baby cries, like you're going to hear it, you're going to wake up, But I think with training, just tried to be like, this is the reality of the situation right now. We've got, I'll show you like a couple of kettlebells and some dumbbells. And we bought a Concept 2 bike for Kat to just start to get some kind of blood back in the legs, kind of postpartum. So just being body weight, 30-40 minute like little conditioning pieces here and there, and then calling it a day, and then just being happy with like, cool, got a good sweat on, like feel good for it, and like that's kind of all my expectations are at the moment. So
and that's, I guess, the methodology of CrossFit is amazing, right? Like you can do an unwrap 20 and be good for the rest of the day. My experience was so because she born in December, we did like sort of Christmas, and then we back to the gym very briefly, and even like at the garage I have like a barbell and I can do like a few things. Anyway, like what I noticed with the sleep deprivation, my baby's pretty good, but the first few months is like the normal, 3 to 5 times a night wake up. What I noticed was like all these years I've been talking to clients like sleeping is so important. Man, I was still doing the warm up, just the warm up of like what I warm up last year for me would be to actually get me warm. With the sleep deprivation, I was sweating. I was like sweating and gas with the warm up. And I was like, that was like for me, it was like, that's so, give me such a huge understanding towards the client that maybe is a parent, and then it's like, wow, yeah, that was so in-person sort of experience. That makes sense. I don't know if it happened to you before, like your performance of
yeah.
yeah,
I think
the sleeping.
it's extremely hard to relate to clients who have kids if you don't have kids. Like until you sort of go through it, I think you don't fully understand the full impacts. Like, and then once you have kids, like I think I probably apologized to my mom like 1,000 times in the last 5 weeks, because like even your perspective on like parents did, it's like, oh yeah, they weren't trying to ruin your life, like they're trying to look out for you and do the best they can.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think yeah, at the moment, I mean, obviously like it's different. Like I don't know if gyms were still open. Like I've definitely missed having people around to train, like getting that push, and having, 10 or 12 other people in a class. I miss the high fives. I miss like the tops off, fist bumps, like the competitive element of it. But yeah, at the moment, the mindset is just like, do anything, like get a sweat on, heavy breathe, and call it a win, and go from. So hopefully, as we get into summer and things start to open up, like hopefully that changes a little bit. But your priorities change too. Like probably more in the past 6 weeks since having a baby. It's suddenly like big numbers and big heavy lifts. It's like it's cool, but like it doesn't mean as much now. Like it's kind of like less about. I don't want to leave Kat and Matea alone for like 3 hours while I go through all my movement prep to like hit that 180 squat, and the recovery required after it. Like it's not practical right now. And that doesn't mean
that's exactly right.
Yeah,
that's exactly right. If I do like any session, like call it like average, I will looking always onto like a 15 to 20 minutes warm up. If I do that and I do the session, but the full session, I will go into that sort of hour and 45. So now it just either I cut on the warm up, which is not ideal, or I cut the end of the session. But I always had my time is that 45 minutes to 1 hour some days, and then like 3 days a week, and then the other days I do like short and sharp. Same. I have the skier and a couple of dumbbells, and just like 20 minutes on ramp. Same my partner, like most of the days she does that, like a 30 minutes sort of thing. But also it's the body as well. Like as we say, like it's not just the nights, but constantly you are in sort of a state of alert.
For sure.
Not in a negative way, but especially like now, for example, like Sophia moves a lot. She crawls everywhere. They require constantly attention, right? Like you are the reference, and then they're just like looking at you. You do every single moment, but they want you to look at them every single moment. So even working becomes a little bit difficult if you're at home all the time, especially with that sort of age. And working out as well. Like I don't want to work that long. Like I can do the workout between 2 and 3, and so at 3 we can go for like a family walk, and that would be more important than continue working out. Does that make sense? So that kind of, as you said, the priorities change instantly. It's good.
Like I've kind of been saying, like it's the first time that I've really understood what like actual unconditional love is, right? When you're like looking at your baby and it's like, you are perfect and I'll do whatever I can. No questions asked. It's again, like having running a small business, I guess, and being in COVID, we're pretty fortunate, Kat and I, that we can kind of bounce baby back and forth. Like she'll kind of do 2 consults, and then like even right now, the fact that I don't have the baby on me doesn't mean the baby's asleep. It just means that Kat's looking after it, right? So there's a lot of that kind of back and forth. But I don't know how like people go back to work 2 weeks after and do like 8 to 10 hours. Like it must be extremely tough. And I guess you do what you've got to do, right? But yeah, I'm very grateful to be in the position we're in. But yeah, it is your priorities just shift, and having a 200 kilo back squat is like not at the top of my list right now.
Yeah. My baby's doing something cool in the other room. So then it's like this bar, this bar with plates on the side. It's not as cool anymore. But still, it's a nice thing.
And Heath,
to say I'm
giving my back a bit of as well. Heath is probably super happy. My back some time to recover.
He's like, you have a baby now. You don't want to lift that heavy. That's okay. That's okay. Man, what was I say? Totally forgot. It was split from my head. We were talking about that. Oh, now you said like unconditional love. I heard that they spouse or partner first, kids second.
There's a have you heard the Ben Bergeron podcast about this?
Yeah, I think I was listening because I know that all the chapters is a few of the ones about parenting. And I think it was in that one of those ones, like effective parenting or something like that. Yeah. It sounds controversial.
I don't think so at all. I actually think when you think it through, I think it makes a lot of sense. I think that in order to create an environment that's conducive to bring kids up, you need to have a good dynamic between parents, right? Or the whole family. And if you're constantly, like, I think maybe in some situations that you do become hyper-focused on the baby because like they're so dependent, right? But if you don't put time into like nurturing your relationship, like, as what I do, like relationships take work, and it's a relationship is like your back squat. Once you PR'd, if you don't keep squatting, you don't get to keep that PR. It goes.
100%, yeah.
And the relationship's the same. Like to build a relationship up to a point where you want to get married and have kids together has taken work to get there. It's going to continue to need work to like survive,
Still feeding.
I think especially in a situation, like you said, where both people are on like high alert all the time because there's a baby around, like that kind of and go for the family walks and that sort of stuff is probably more important now than it's ever been when it was just the two of us, or just the two of you. So
I'd say controversial because I can imagine not many people like the reaction of people, but that was more a few years ago when I kind of go more holistic, especially with the influence of listening to Paul Chek. He always says like me first, then others. We like you not give love to others. Same the other way around. If your partnership is not working, your kids not gonna work or grow as well, or raise in a love way. That makes sense. Same as like in the airplanes, it's always put your mask first on you before your kids, because if you are dead, you cannot save your kids.
Yeah.
But the first instinct is to like, I'm gonna put the mask on my kids and save my kids. But by the time you do it, you're likely that not dead, but you in danger. It was actually a good study. A UK doctor, he prescribes 1 hour a day to the moms for yourself, for like me time. So this doctor is just like on, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, between 6 p.m. and 7 p.m. You need to do something that's just for you, and your partner need to look after that. And it's like those people that start losing weight, and they start like better, like mental health goes positive, etc. That's another thing is like sometimes we can fall into like be so focused on the baby that we can forget about ourselves. And it's not to mean like being selfish, but yes, something like it sometimes be careful or aware of that, of like, you still need to look after yourself first. There she is, she's come back. It's not gonna let, yeah, so like, yeah, look after yourself, and then, yeah, so that would be, you would be the best version of yourself, your kid.
One of the things I think that I was told when I found out I was having a daughter was by a friend of ours who has a 2-year-old daughter. And one of the things he said to me was, you realize that you are setting the example for every relationship she has with a male, like moving forward, right? So if she's learning by how you're kind of treating her mom as like the example to be set in what to look for a partner, you can't allow a situation where you like, yeah, you are, like you said, she's watching, your kids are watching you 24/7, and they're gonna remember the example that you've set more than like the lessons you've tried to teach, right? So if you're showing them supportive, like loving, encouraging environment where you can be playful but respectful, then that's what she's going to grow up and expect is the standard. And that's what I want, you know, like you want someone, you know, I think everyone that has a daughter wants someone to find someone, irrespective of male or female, that treats them or has like, that's what she looks for in a relationship, you know? So
yeah,
I don't know, man, she's 5 weeks old.
Understood.
I'm overthinking it.
No, this is the thing, like, especially like, I know that you received the Daily Dad as well. Yeah, I receive it and I read through it, but still too ahead. It's kind of like those things that maybe when they're when they start like kind of you can have those conversations. Like sometimes he recommends like activities like go and do like a charity event with your kids, and it's like, well, I put it on the notes to do list in 5 years time, because like, you know, a 5-year-old might get was a charity, but yeah, still good. Still like you train yourself now to be good, like to be ready. Like there's no excuses. Like there's no excuses. Like, oh, because they're small, they're not learning, but they're still like absorbing.
I think there's like before we had Matea, like I would always say to Kat, like I wish they were born at like the toddler level where like they are more interactive and like they kind of do have their thoughts and you can have that kind of communication with them. But then I very quickly like realized by the time they get to the stage where they can talk, you've already shaped like their experience and potentially their perception of the world. So if you wait until that point, it's too late. You know, like it's not like the damage has been done, but you've missed this opportunity to really cultivate like certain characteristics or elements up to that point, right? And the other thing that they mentioned in the Daily Dad was like the power of creating like traditions and rituals. Have you seen that? See that one? And so I was like, oh,
yeah, that's cute. Yeah, that's big.
The family's all in like matching Essendon like footy onesies, watching the football, like trying to create like traditions around like all like to enjoy.
Yeah.
She wants to enjoy as well. So, but
I'm very big. Like it's one of the things that like change your mentality. Like, you know, you hear about like creating experiences for them. Like that's the most important thing. Like not so much about like material. It's more like about experiences. And I like kind of like there's like a random, but like on my bank account is like a separate bank account that's just like Sophia, and I, you know, I already create like a little budget. It's like when she wants to do something, there is no hesitation about it. Like I want to do rowing, and it's like cool. I have enough funds for the last 5 years to buy you a rower if you want straight away. Doesn't mean like it's like spoiled, but it's like you prepare to give those the best experiences, or like holidays and stuff like that. I like to start thinking ahead of if I start saving now or start aside for like Christmases or the family holidays. But when she's out, she will look back and like, my parents used to take me to these cool places. We used to have if I wanted to do this sport or this activity, they will not hesitate twice, or not crunching numbers. So that for me is like as well kind of like important, like it really thinking ahead, even like not just the behavior like you're showing nowadays, but like a little bit of I'm not planning any school or anything because not very much into that, but around experiences, yes. Like
I think
I don't want to think it twice.
Like a lot of like, there's a lot of obviously research that's been done in terms of children's perception of their parents, and this is probably something you again become acutely aware of when you become a parent. But like kids don't want stuff, right? They want your attention, and I think that a lot of the time you see situations where people have replaced time and like actual contact with things, right? And I think that that's kind of a goal that we have, and something to yourself. And I think being in the industry that we're in, you do have a bit more flexibility with, like I can't imagine Jess and Tristan saying to you like, hey, Sophia can't be in here like while you're in here PT. It can be a situation where I do have to work because like, you do like all these experiences that we get to have, and obviously like that's got to come from somewhere, but it's not I'm gone and absent for like long periods of time excessively regularly that we then don't have these I'm just not present. So it's
no 100.
Like you even look back. Have you watched The Social Dilemma yet? The documentary on Netflix?
No, not yet. Last weekend I was into the sports docos, like the Racing Phoenix and Athlete A, but I saw it this week everywhere, like social dilemma.
Yeah, but I guess it's the how much the world has changed, like since Facebook, or like the invention of the iPhone and the rest of it, and it's just like who knows where we're going to be in 5-10 years, and what kind of challenges are going to arise in situations that your kids are trying to navigate. And when something like social media that we don't have the experience of the time with to be able to have protocols in place on how the best practice for that generation occurs, like how do you deal with that? So I don't know.
I guess it's like always said, like, the books that we're reading, and luckily we are in an industry or in a position that coaching people allows us to have a mentality of coach our kids. So it's interesting when people say like, oh, social media is so scary for teenagers. They never done any actionable to teach them how to use social media. It's like they're banding social media. The kids, we're all being kids. So if your parents think not, or if they think it's dangerous for you, you're gonna do it.
I've had a similar conversation a few times where and I think you're right, as a coach, you do have a good advantage potentially in knowing how to create an environment that is conducive to like failure, right? Like in a positive sense. But when you want your kids to be resilient and independent, you have to let them learn lessons that is going to make them cry and be upset. And I think as a parent, that is probably like I've got to let you go out and get your heart broken so that you can learn that it's like not the end of the world, and that you can come back, and that this is just part of life, and to learn how to be resilient and independent, right? Like it's a harder lesson on parents, I think, than it is on like your kids.
100%. One of the I think what you just said is like one of the best compliments a friend told me. So I have a younger sister, and my relationship with my sister is really good in terms like my friend told me it's really nice to see that she's confident to do a lot of things, like so that our other young sister in a small town, she's confident to feel independent, or like she feels independent. She doesn't but then she feels at the same time safe that you're gonna be there if she needs you.
Mm.
So you kind of like a little cloud, like you're around, but you don't have any stream attached to that person. Does that make sense? So they feel completely free and independent, but if they need you, they know that you're instantly covering their backs. So I guess that's what like is a good aim, I guess. And so that, as you said, like I have to see like my sister like breaking up with a boyfriend. I will be like, you can see like say crying, and it's like, is she okay? Like, yes, like it's okay to go through that. You need to learn it, and then and then other times was not okay, and then you need to have a word with her or maybe with the guy, or both, or bring both together and say, guys, you cannot do this. It's not like that's not what you think. It's like go with the guy, like no.
I think
Yeah. So
I think it's been a cool time for us to have a kid, purely in the sense that there's a lot of people that we know around us that are also having their first kids or got quite young kids. And I think the reason that it is super positive is not just because there's people going through the same thing that you can ask for help, but it's almost like, if we're hanging out together and spending time together because we're friends, and our kids are hanging out and spending time together, and so they form their own friendships. Once they start getting to the point where it's like, they're going out and things like that, they're already like doing that with, I guess, other kids that you've established a personal relationship with and like a certain element of trust with as well. So that's kind of my hope, is that my mates who are having young boys, that like their sons are going to be, like we had a really cool, I think, group of friends growing up where we had cool group of girls, cool group of guys. And it was just, like you just look out for each other and make sure like whatever happens at the end of the day, like everyone's safe. And I think that's ultimately what you want, right?
yeah. Also, they have that, that protection of group, and the more the group is more, the more variety in the group, the better. He's not trying to put your girl just with girls or your boy just with boys, and the bigger, the more friends that they have, like they can, the sense of the community, the earlier, that I think, the better.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm always thinking like,
we'll let some lag.
On what?
Got the north side internet now. It's been working for an hour. It needs a coffee break, smoke. Have you been speaking to Sophia? Like, have you guys had the conversation about
Spanish?
Yeah, trying to kind of bring up bilingual like elements.
Yeah. Especially
Hang on, dude. We're frozen. Hold on, mate. These are the perks of trying to do everything online.
Yeah.
Hey, you back? Oh, hey, mate. That's all right. I'll just I'll edit. Yeah.
Kind of like, you seeing it fine or?
That's better. You're back now, I think.
Yeah. Should I switch off the washing machine?
No, you're back now. You're back now.
Yeah, definitely trying to raise like bilingual. So yeah, picking my moments to speak Spanish to her. I guess that like, and one thing I was thinking is like, I need to order in some books in Spanish so she can actually see the and be like. Oh no.
Dude.
You are super slow. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah, you just you want to order some books in Spanish.
Ordered some books in Spanish, and then probably like some cards. Most of the films and stuff like that, you can put it like in Spanish or stuff like that. So it's easy. Like it's just the language, like English and Spanish. So yeah, I think it's important.
Yeah.
Especially when we go back to Spain, she needs to be able to. I wish that she has like a little group of friends, like Spanish friends, back there that she can see every summer or every time that we go there, and that would be nice.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, you move there and study there or whatever. She has that language as well ready to go.
Yeah, I feel like
South America.
being right.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I think it's very powerful if you make one and then you have like a really good or like fully bilingual, like she could potentially be. Yeah, that's awesome. Like if the English is the first one, then mother tongue is awesome. Because then, yeah, then accent and stuff like that. Yep.
Hey, dude.
Well, yeah. If we do like a fully parental one, not that like
we should come back and do a proper parent podcast. But mate, I'll
like a proper parental, yeah.
we'll have to wait till we can do it in person so we don't have any connection difficulties. But mate, thank you.
100%.
It's been a really good chat. I've kept you for 80 minutes, so I'll let you go. But nice to sit down one-on-one and get your insight into all things parenting and training and sports psychology. And mate, hopefully it's not too long before we can get a workout in down at Project.
That's yeah, that would be awesome. Yeah, that would be awesome to work out with you. And thank you for having this chat and reaching out and definitely like really looking forward to having you at the gym and do some workouts.
That's good, mate. All right, take care. Go and give that baby some attention.
Yeah. See you, man.
Yeah.